I want to talk about the inflection point that we find ourselves in on a global basis. It's all based on a totally discredited and outmoded desire by the U.S. leadership to dominate the world, and its increasing desperate fear that it can't do it anymore. The United States position in the world has eroded very badly. Michael Hudson very often talks about the fact that the decline of Rome is actually reflected and mirrored in the decline of the U.S. empire that has been going on now for several decades, most notably evidenced by the 2008 financial collapse. Some people have forgotten it. It's about 15 years ago, but in fact, the U.S. economy has yet to recover from that collapse, and its share of world trade has continued to fall and fall drastically. And now with de-dollarization and the rise of BRICS, the United States can no longer impose its economic dominance of the world, and it's been essentially reduced to depending only on terrorism, on its own terrorism of military threats and bludgeoning force, while using mafia-style tactics against countries of the global majority to get them to go along with the U.S. aggressive policies against Russia, against the Palestinians, and against China. Now, the vast majority of countries in the world are saying no to that, and that's helping people in the United States to recognize that what the government says is pretty much the opposite of what we need to be thinking and doing. And this, of course, has been largely thanks to China, which has surpassed the U.S. economy and is the world's largest manufacturer and is dedicated to common prosperity and a shared future on a global basis. This is a very big deal for the peoples of the world, but there's a missing ingredient that is really my focus, and that is a movement in my country, the United States, that's strong enough to put a screeching halt to the ever-increasing militarist frenzy of the United States leadership. And it is focused really on taking inspiration and energy from the surge of solidarity with the Palestinians fighting against genocide by Israel, supported by the United States, and merging that with a global anti-war movement to stop the insanity of the U.S. war efforts. Notably, next month in July, there is a very large NATO summit, and our movements in the United States are meeting it with very intensive, united anti-NATO summit that will gather opponents of NATO to highlight that NATO shouldn't even exist. It was founded approximately 70 years ago for the purpose of defending Europe against the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union collapsed in 1990. Instead of withering away, NATO has evolved from 12 member countries to, I believe, 30, maybe 31 now. And most recently, they are expanding both membership and military presence in the Far East, obviously aimed against China. Also in July, there's a RIMPAC war games of NATO navies in the Pacific that is going to involve, I believe, more than 24 countries. Many of these countries, especially in Latin America, are themselves long-term victims of U.S. domination and interference of every possible kind.
姐妹们总烦恼脸上细纹干燥与暗沉，现在起跟我一起放心交给 KS Royal Face 皇家颜值逆时奇迹系列。 KS Royal Face 皇家颜值逆时奇迹系列，它添加5种 EGF， 专门防止肌肤老化，强化皮肤修复，增加肌肤弹性水嫩，轻松抚平皱纹，换回青春自信。KS Royal Face 皇家颜值逆时奇迹，活肤露、全效精华、精华霜，即刻启动冻龄密码。